All right, let's throw in this last problem on our notes. This is example 5, and we just have a word problem here. Again, we're going to try to write as a one-step equation. So let's read it first. Kenji, I don't know if that's how you say it, took a survey of the sophomore class. If 96 sophomores, or 2/3 of the class, said they were going to the football game on Saturday, how many sophomores were in the survey? So as we read this, we looked at we talked about identifying the unknown. This last sentence here, this last phrase, how many sophomores were in the survey, is what we're trying to find out here. So I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to immediately define that to be a variable. Let's just call that x. Okay, so now we know what we are trying to find in the problem, the unknown or unspecified value. Well, let's look back to see what else we know. It says 96 sophomores, or 2/3 of the class, said they were going to the football game. Sometimes what I do here is just like to take the problem and just rewrite it below, right? So if you were to say 2/3, let's just write it like this. 2/3 of the class um, went to the football game. Went to the game. Okay. And so this is kind of a secondary step here. Oftentimes I will do this with a word problem. It's just kind of read, find out what I don't know, underline that, let's define a variable, and then maybe just kind of rephrase, what I know below, right? So when I read this now, just kind of writing it down here, 2/3 of the class, right? Um, 2/3 of the class, if we translate that, right? Of, in this case, is going to mean multiplication. 2/3 of something means multiplication, right? So I could write this 2/3 of the class. Well, the class is going to be my x, right? Because the whole class is representing how many sophomores were in the survey, because I surveyed the whole sophomore class. So 2/3 of x went to the game, right? So that's how I can start to transfer this. 2/3 x. Now let's think about our constraint, the one thing we haven't used. 2/3 of the class, it tells us in the beginning, is 96. So the constraint here is this is going to equal 96. So 2/3 of the class, which by the way is 96 people, it told us, went to the game. So we can write our equation like this. I'll write it again. 2/3 x equals 96, right? And then, so that's part 1. And part 2 is, now let's just go ahead and solve this. This is part 1. And then how do we solve this equation? 2/3 x equals 96. Now we have to uncover what x is. So let's get it by itself. We are multiplying by 2/3 times x. So what are we going to do? We're going to do the opposite of multiplying by 2/3, which is dividing by 3/2. Sorry, dividing by 2/3, or multiplying by the reciprocal is another equivalent way to do that. So we'll multiply by 3/2 on both sides. Okay. And of course, we know that when we take a fraction and multiply it by its reciprocal, that equals 1. So we have 1x, and 96 times 3/2 is 144. 144. So x is equal to 144. So looking back, how many sophomores were in the survey, you might finally write this as there was 144 sophomores. Sophomores. And there's my answer. Okay, so in these word problems, we try to kind of practice what we've been doing from yesterday. We are going to read through that. If there's any prompting, we want to mark the text as we read through it. We want to identify our unknowns. We can highlight those. And then we want to identify what we know, and we're going to try to put that into an equation. We're going to define a variable for our unknown value, and we're going to write an equation to represent that situation. And then lastly, we're going to go ahead and solve the equation to answer the question, right? So that takes practice. You can go ahead and work on the problems assigned to you for 2.2. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.